Hey history enthusiasts, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into one of the most extraordinary stories in Roman history, a tale of ambition, military genius, and cultural fusion that reshaped an empire. We're exploring the life of Septimius Severus, the African-born emperor who rose from the provinces to rule the entire Roman world. So grab your gladius, and let's march through history as we uncover the incredible journey of Rome's most unconventional emperor. Our story begins on April 11th, 145 CE, in the coastal city of Leptis Magna, located in what is now Libya, North Africa. This wasn't some backwater town, folks. Leptis Magna was a thriving, wealthy port city, a jewel of the Roman province of Africa Proconsularis, enriched by the olive oil trade and Mediterranean commerce. Septimius Severus was born Lucius Septimius Severus into a prominent equestrian family. That's the second tier of Roman aristocracy, just below the senators. His father held local magistracies, and the family had Punic roots, meaning they descended from the ancient Carthaginians who had inhabited North Africa for centuries. But here's the fascinating part. The Severus family was thoroughly Romanized, speaking Latin and participating fully in Roman civic life. Growing up in this cosmopolitan environment, young Severus received an excellent Roman education. He studied Latin literature, rhetoric, and law, all the tools a young man needed to climb the Roman political ladder. But he never forgot his African heritage, maintaining connections to his homeland throughout his life. Now, let's talk about Severus' ascent through the cursus honorum. That's the sequential order of public offices that ambitious Romans pursued. This wasn't easy, especially for someone from the provinces. But Severus had connections and talent in spades. Around 162 CE, at about 17 years old, Severus moved to Rome to begin his political career. He served in various minor positions before becoming a military tribune, essentially a staff officer in the Roman legions. This gave him his first taste of military life, something that would define his entire reign. By 174 CE, he became quaestor, handling financial administration in Sardinia, then praetor around 178 CE, commanding legions in Syria. He married his first wife, Pacia Marciana, though little is known about her except that she died around 186 CE. Here's where it gets interesting. In 187 CE, Severus married Julia Domna, a remarkable Syrian woman from Emesa, modern-day Homs. Julia wasn't just any provincial woman. She was the daughter of a high priest and came from an influential family. Ancient sources tell us that Severus had heard her horoscope predicted she would marry a king, and ambitious as he was, he pursued her. Julia Domna would become one of the most powerful and influential empresses in Roman history, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. Fast forward to 192 CE. Rome is in crisis. Emperor Commodus, the unstable son of Marcus Aurelius, was assassinated on December 31st. What followed was absolute chaos. The Praetorian Guard, Rome's elite imperial bodyguards, literally auctioned off the imperial throne to the highest bidder. A wealthy senator named Didius Julianus won this bizarre auction, but he wouldn't last long. Here's the situation. Severus was serving as governor of Pannonia Superior, roughly modern-day Hungary and Austria, commanding 3 powerful legions. When news of Commodus's death reached the provinces, multiple generals saw their opportunity. Pescennius Niger in Syria, Clodius Albinus in Britain, and our man Severus in Pannonia all had armies behind them. On April 9th, 193 CE, Severus's troops proclaimed him emperor. But he was smart. He didn't immediately fight everyone. He made a strategic alliance with Clodius Albinus, offering to make him Caesar and heir, buying time to deal with the other threats. Then Severus did something audacious. He marched his legions rapidly toward Rome, covering the distance in record time. And here's the kicker. The Praetorian Guard, those same guys who'd auctioned the throne, tried to resist. Severus surrounded the city, and the Senate, seeing which way the wind was blowing, declared him emperor and condemned Didius Julianus to death. Severus entered Rome in June 193 CE without a battle. His first act? He disbanded the entire Praetorian Guard and replaced them with his own loyal soldiers. Talk about making a statement. But Severus wasn't secure yet. He still had rivals to eliminate, and this is where his military genius truly shined. First up, Pescennius Niger in the east. In 193-194 CE, Severus marched his armies into Asia Minor and Syria. The decisive battle came at Issus in 194 CE. Yes, the same place where Alexander the Great had defeated the Persians centuries earlier. Severus's forces crushed Niger's army, and Niger himself was captured and executed while trying to flee. But Severus didn't just defeat Niger, he restructured the entire eastern frontier, dividing Syria into two provinces to prevent any future governor from having such concentrated military power. He also punished cities that had supported Niger, including Antioch, which lost its status and privileges. Now came the big one. Clodius Albinus in Britain. Remember that alliance Severus made? Yeah, that was about to end. In 195 CE, Severus turned his attention west. Albinus crossed from Britain to Gaul with his legions, and the two armies met at Lugdunum, modern-day Lyon, France, in February 197 CE. This was one of the bloodiest battles in Roman history. Ancient sources claim nearly 300,000 soldiers fought, and casualties were catastrophic on both sides. At one point, Severus's troops nearly broke, and he himself was thrown from his horse. But eventually, his forces rallied and destroyed Albinus's army. Albinus either committed suicide or was killed in the rout. Severus was now undisputed master of the Roman world. Severus was first and foremost a soldier's emperor, and he revolutionized the Roman military in ways that would last for generations. First, he increased military pay significantly, the first raise in over a century. He allowed soldiers to marry legally while in service, which had been prohibited. He expanded the legions, raising 3 new ones, including the Second Parthica, which he stationed near Rome. This was unprecedented. Roman emperors had traditionally kept legions away from the capital to prevent coups, but Severus wanted loyal troops nearby. He also opened up officer positions to more people from the provinces and promoted based on merit rather than just aristocratic birth. This created a more professional, loyal military, but also increased the army's political power, a double-edged sword that would cause problems after his death. In 197 to 199 CE, fresh from his victory over Albinus, Severus launched a major campaign against the Parthian Empire in the east. The Parthians had supported Pescennius Niger and raided Roman territory. Severus wasn't having it. His armies marched through Mesopotamia, captured the Parthian capital of Ctesiphon, and annexed northern Mesopotamia as a new Roman province. This was huge. Rome gained control of vital trade routes and pushed the frontier to more defensible positions. Severus celebrated with magnificent games in Rome and took the victory title Parthicus Maximus, greatest conqueror of Parthia. While conquering enemies abroad, Severus was also building something at home, a dynasty. His wife Julia Domna was a political powerhouse in her own right. Ancient sources describe her as intelligent, well-educated, and politically savvy. She hosted a literary salon in Rome, gathered philosophers and scholars, and actively participated in imperial administration. Severus and Julia had 2 sons, Lucius Septimius Bassianus, born in 188 CE, who we know better as Caracalla, and Publius Septimius Geta, born in 189 CE. Severus was determined to establish his family as the new imperial dynasty, the Severan Dynasty, that would secure Rome's future. He promoted his family relentlessly through coins, statues, and inscriptions across the empire. He claimed descent from the previous emperor Marcus Aurelius, a complete fiction, but it gave him legitimacy. He even had himself adopted posthumously into the Antonine dynasty. Politics, folks. Severus was also a prolific builder. He renovated and expanded his hometown of Leptis Magna with magnificent temples, a harbor, and colonnaded streets. You can still see the ruins today, and they're spectacular. In Rome, he restored buildings damaged in civil wars, constructed the Arch of Septimius Severus in the Forum, which still stands, and built the massive Septizodeum, a ornamental fountain facade at the approach to the Palatine Hill. In 208 CE, now in his 60s, Severus embarked on his final great campaign, the conquest of Britain. The northern frontier of Roman Britain, roughly along Hadrian's Wall, was under constant pressure from Caledonian tribes, ancestors of the Scots. Severus decided to solve this problem permanently. This wasn't just a military campaign, it was a family affair. Severus brought Julia Domna and both his sons, Caracalla and Geta. The imperial court relocated to Britain, making York, or Eboracum as the Romans called it, the temporary capital of the entire Roman Empire. Severus launched punishing campaigns deep into Caledonia, what's now Scotland. His armies built roads, camps, and fortifications as they advanced. Ancient sources claim heavy casualties on both sides, with the Caledonians using guerrilla tactics, avoiding pitched battles, and harassing Roman supply lines. But the campaign was grinding, brutal work. The terrain was harsh, the weather miserable, and the enemy elusive. Severus reportedly pushed his forces hard, determined to bring these tribes under Roman control once and for all. Some ancient sources suggest he aimed for total conquest of the entire island, but Severus would never complete his British conquest. On February 4th, 201 CE in York, after more than 2 years campaigning in Britain, Septimius Severus died. Ancient sources suggest he died of natural causes, likely an illness, though some mention gout. He was 65 years old and had ruled for nearly 18 years. His final words to his sons, according to the ancient historian Cassius Dio, were, "Be harmonious, enrich the soldiers, and scorn all other men." That pretty much summed up his reign. Military loyalty above all else. Both Caracalla and Geta succeeded him as joint emperors, but their father's hope for harmony was short-lived. The brothers despised each other. Within a year, Caracalla murdered Geta in their mother, Julia Domna's arms, and launched a brutal purge of Geta's supporters. So much for family unity. Despite the fratricidal horror, the Severan Dynasty continued. Caracalla ruled until 217 CE when he was assassinated. After a brief interruption, Julia Domna's sister's grandsons became emperor, first Elagabalus, then Alexander Severus. The dynasty finally ended in 235 CE, with Alexander Severus's assassination, leading to the crisis of the 3rd century. But Severus's impact lasted far beyond his dynasty. His military reforms shaped Roman armies for the rest of the empire's existence. His expansion of provincial rights and opportunities for non-Italian Romans accelerated the transformation of Rome from an Italian empire to a truly Mediterranean-wide state. So what do we make of Septimius Severus? He was complex, brutal yet effective, provincial yet imperial, African yet thoroughly Roman. He represented something new in Roman history, an emperor whose power came entirely from military might, rather than senatorial tradition or dynastic inheritance. He openly favored soldiers over the Senate, increasing military spending while marginalizing traditional aristocratic power. This set a pattern that would dominate Roman politics for the next century. Culturally, Severus embodied the cosmopolitan nature of the Roman Empire at its height. Born in Africa, married to a Syrian, commanding soldiers from across Europe and the Mediterranean, he showed that Roman was no longer just about Italy, but about a shared civilization spanning 3 continents. Ancient sources had mixed views on Severus. Cassius Dio, a senator who lived through his reign, criticized his autocratic style and favoritism toward the military. But even Dio admitted Severus was capable and effective. Later historian Herodian portrayed him as stern but just, cruel when necessary but also generous and fair-minded. Modern historians recognize Severus as a pivotal figure. He marked the transition from the Principate, where emperors maintained the fiction of being first among equals with the Senate, to the Dominate, where emperors were openly absolute military monarchs. His reign was a bridge between the classical Roman Empire and the very different empire that would emerge in the 3rd and 4th centuries. Today, we can still see Severus's legacy carved in stone across 3 continents. In Rome, his triumphal arch still dominates the Roman Forum, its reliefs depicting his victories over the Parthians. It's one of the best preserved Roman monuments in the city. In his hometown of Leptis Magna in Libya, the ruins of his building program are simply spectacular. The Forum, Basilica, Arch, and harbor works showcase the wealth and ambition of this African city at its peak. These ruins are some of the best preserved Roman sites anywhere, offering us a window into the splendor of Roman North Africa. Coins from his reign survive by the thousands, showing his portrait, his family, and propaganda messages about military victories and dynastic continuity. Inscriptions from across the empire record his titles, building projects, and administrative reforms. In Britain, archaeologists have found evidence of his Scottish campaigns, temporary camps, roads, and fortifications pushing far into the highlands. At York, where he died, excavations have revealed the Roman fortress and city where the imperial court resided. So there you have it, the incredible story of Septimius Severus, from a boy in North Africa to master of the Roman world. A military genius who reshaped the empire, a dynasty founder whose family embodied the multicultural nature of Rome, and a ruler whose policies transformed Roman government for generations to come. His story reminds us that the Roman Empire was never just about Rome or Italy. It was a vast, diverse civilization where talent and ambition could take someone from the provinces to the very pinnacle of power. Septimius Severus proved that an African could not just participate in Roman civilization, but lead it, defend it, and reshape it according to his own vision. What's your take on Severus? Was he a necessary strongman who saved Rome from civil war chaos? Or a military autocrat who undermined republican traditions? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Roman history, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more historical content. Next time, we might explore Julia Domna and the powerful women of the Severan Dynasty, or perhaps dive into the crisis of the 3rd century. Let me know what you'd like to see. Until next time, history lovers, keep exploring the past, because understanding where we've been helps us understand where we're going. Vale.